Good evening, everyone, and as you can plainly see, it is not evening. I'm recording this video and welcome to our Sunday evening service on Easter Sunday. And as some of us are observing Passover, and I'm pleased to have this chance to welcome you to tonight's service. And thought what I would do tonight is simulate, or at least walk into the chapel, enter it, and share just a few things that I think about and appreciate when I do. The first thing I appreciate is this chapel walk that we have. My home behind it, my office is over there, and as I make my way down the chapel walk with some of you entering the space, find myself in a little bit of conversation, which I enjoy. Then I get closer to the door itself. Usually it's open, it's not right now, but I open it up and I come on in to chapel and I bump into people I'm glad to see. There's usually a chapel prefect over here ringing the bell, so I thought I would ring the bell tonight, or now, because that's something I definitely appreciate. Here goes. Not as good as the chapel prefect, I'm afraid, but I hope you can hear that and appreciate it in ways that I do. As I get past the bell being rung, I'm sort of still in the aisle looking at the whole magnificent chapel that we have. As you can see behind me, sort of the look down the aisle as you come in. I appreciate that a lot. I also sort of notice this photograph right here, which is Mr. Ashburn, who was headmaster at Brooks from 1927 to 1973. And I think to myself about all he saw the school through during that incredibly impressive stretch of time. 46 years, if you can imagine, from the crash of the stock market in 1929 all the way through the tumultuous 1960s and into the early 1970s. Just incredible, inspiring to me in so many levels. And then I continue sort of down the aisle, and some of you are in your seats over here, or some of you are in your seats over here. And I make my way further down the aisle, and I'll see Mr. Chapman and Mr. Humphreyville and the chapel prefects getting ready. And then I make my way over to my seat if I don't stop and chat with them for a little bit. I sit down, get comfortable, and then look out this way to all of you who we miss having here. So I hope you enjoy tonight's service. I hope you had a great Easter if you were observing Easter and Passover as well, and that you have a great night and start to your week ahead. Take good care.
Our opening hymn is Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. Mr. Humphreyville will play it on the chapel organ, and you and your family are invited to sing along. The words will appear on the screen.
Hello, Brooksians. I hope you're all managing to stay healthy and happy and adjusting to the strange circumstances that we are all living in these days. I think I mentioned last Sunday that my wife and I have been holed up in our house for almost 5 weeks now. And we are incredibly fortunate that our daughter Sarah and her husband Dennis live just down the street from us. And they have been going to the grocery store and doing everything else for us that we need, so that we don't need to leave the house or the yard. And I'm incredibly grateful to them for that. They're taking the risk of going out in public in order that Anne and I can avoid that risk. And I see that kind of risk is being taken by people all through our society, by health workers, by delivery drivers, by grocery store clerks, by all kinds of people who are taking the risk and making the sacrifice to keep us going, at least the things that we need most essentially for our lives. I've been thinking in these times about community and what it is that holds community together. And it seems to me that the thing that most of all holds community together is sacrifice. It's often little sacrifices like Sarah's being willing to go to the grocery store for us, or other people willing to go to do essential jobs in these times when it can be dangerous to do that. All the little things that we do for one another, the ways that we give way to one another, that keep all the communities functioning that we're part of. And sometimes the sacrifices aren't little, sometimes they're big. There are times when people choose to give their everything they have, to give their lives for the sake of the truth, for the sake of the community that they are part of. Today is Easter Sunday. It's the day when Christians celebrate Jesus' sacrifice of his life for all of us, for the world that he lived in. And we celebrate the incredible burst of new life that arose from that sacrifice that Jesus made. There are lots of examples of Jesus is not the only person who has given his life for others. There are lots of examples of people who have given everything they had for the sake of their loved ones, the community around them, for the sake of the truth as they understood it. For our program today, we have 3 readings that have to do with sacrifice and how sacrifice builds community. The first reading is from Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, who as I'm sure you know, was accused and tried for impiety, that is, for not giving proper recognition to the gods of Athens. He was ultimately executed. And the first reading, which is a lengthy one, is from Socrates' defense of himself in his trial. The second reading is from the Gospel of John. It's some of Jesus's most important words in the short time before he was crucified. And the last reading is a single line from the modern Greek poet Dinos Christianopoulos. Christianopoulos is still alive. I believe he's 89 years old now. His work was quite rejected and despised when he was a young man. It has since been recognized as important. But this one line from one of his poems has become a proverb in many different languages, and especially in Mexico. And I hope as you listen to these readings that you will think about how sacrifice by all kinds of people, both large and small, builds the communities that we're all part of and that we depend on. And I hope it will help you think yourself about the sacrifices that you make for the sake of the communities that you're part of, including Brooks School. Stay healthy. I wish you all a good week, and God bless you all. Amen.
Our first reading is from Socrates' defense of himself in his trial. Suppose you said to me, Socrates, we shall disregard your accusers and let you go, but only on one condition, that you stop philosophizing. If we catch you going on teaching in the same way, you shall be put to death. Well, if you offered me that, I would reply, Gentlemen, I am your devoted servant, but I owe a greater obedience to God than to you. And so long as I draw breath and have my faculties, I will never stop practicing philosophy and elucidating the truth for everyone that I meet. I shall go on saying, in my usual way, My very good friend, you are an Athenian, and I belong to a city which is the greatest and most famous in the world for its wisdom and strength. Are you not ashamed that you spend your life acquiring as much money and reputation as possible, and give no attention to truth and understanding and the perfection of your soul? And if any of you professes to care about these things, I shall not at once let you go or leave you. No, I shall question you and examine you. And if it appears that in spite of your profession, you have made no real progress towards goodness, I shall reprove you for neglecting what is of supreme importance and for giving your attention to trivialities. This is what my God commands, and it is my belief that no greater good has ever befallen you in this city than my service to God. For I spend all my time going about trying to persuade you, young and old, to make your first concern not for your bodies, nor for your possessions, but for the highest welfare of your souls. I keep telling you, wealth does not bring goodness, but goodness brings wealth and every other blessing, both to the individual and to the state. And so, gentlemen, I would say, you can please yourselves whether you acquit me or not. You know that I am not going to alter my conduct, not even if I have to die 100 deaths. Socrates.
The second reading is from the Gospel of John. These are some of Jesus' words to his friend as he neared the time of his crucifixion. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no other than this, that you lay down your life for your friends. The light is with you for a little longer. Walk while you have the light, so that the darkness may not overtake you. If you walk in the darkness, you do not know where you are going. While you have the light, believe in the light, so that you may become the children of light.
The third reading is from the Greek poet Dinos Christanopoulos. You tried to bury me, but you forgot that I'm a seed.
Our closing hymn is the school hymn. Mr. Humphrey will play it on the chapel organ. You and your family are invited to sing along. The words will appear on the screen.
invite you to join me in prayer. Great Spirit of community and love, be present with us and hold us together in our hearts, even though we are distant from one another. Keep us mindful that in spite of all troubles and challenges, you are always with us, always reaching out to renew us in love. Open our eyes to all the wonders of the life you have given us, and keep us always in the circle of your loving care. Amen.